Now, listen, one of the things that's been talked about that hasn't been getting enough play on certain shows, and people haven't been talking about it, is when Biden talked about in the State of the Union about building a bridge that goes out to a floating dock, like a pier. I don't want to say it's like a bridge; it's like a floating dock in which he said they're going to use it to get aid into Gaza. Now, the easiest way to get aid in Gaza is just let those trucks go on in. Why wouldn't they just do that? Why wouldn't Biden push to get those trucks in there to drop off aid? Well, it seems very suspicious. Freddie Ponton put this up over there, and this is from the BBC. We're going to play the video and show you right over here. But if you haven't heard about this, the U.S. military plans to construct a pier and get food into Gaza. That's why they're saying they're doing that. But as soon as you start peeling back the layers from the onions, it gets really, really suspicious. Let's play a little bit of the video so you can see what we're talking about. Yes, this is real, ladies and gentlemen, an actual pier into a dock, into a floating dock. Listen. Here's the U.S. military showing how the Gaza pier is being
U.S.
constructed.
Army craft that will be departing, making around a 30-day trip to get to the shore off the coast of Gaza. You can see there are several of these vessels here that will be heading out. You see a vehicle on one of these. Over to my left here, another one, which will connect with what they call a roll-on, roll-off facility. That will enable a very big civilian cargo ship to bring containers full of aid to be collected, picked up by these vessels, and then brought to what will basically be a huge floating pier that will be floated, driven towards the shore of Gaza. Now, what the officials are saying here is that the facility, once it's built, will allow them to deliver 2 million meals a day, or 2 million bottles of water per day, to the population in Gaza. All of this ordered by President Biden and announced during his State of the Union speech last week. But the political reality about this is that all of this could be done far more easily over land. That's why aid agencies say that the solution is to open up more land crossings. They've been urging Israel to do so. And we've seen this increasing public spat between the US administration and the Israelis over this entire issue, while the UN continues to warn that a quarter of the population in Gaza is at risk of famine.
Okay. So a lot of people are talking, and we're going to bring this up in just a second. Freddie Ponton, who I got to speak with him in the morning show when I did AM Wake Up. This guy is amazing. He does some amazing work. A lot of people are insinuating or thinking that it's really not about the aid. What is it for, right? Well, there's also some oil reserves and gas reserves, I believe, off the water, off the coast over there they might want to tap into. But a lot of people feel that this particular pier of whatnot or dock, floating dock, will be used to take Palestinians out of the country and disperse them around the globe. That's what a lot of people think this is about. Now, at the end of the day, I don't believe this is about just getting aid in there. It's something stinks over there, right? They're telling you it's about getting aid in there. That's what's going on. But look what Freddie Ponton put up there. And I think what we want to do, if we want to find answers, we just got to dig a little deeper. We got to find out who's behind all this over here. So it says, who is behind the contractor Fogbow, the mind behind Biden and the Pentagon's plan to rebuild a floating pier off the coast of Gaza to facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid into the Strip. So once again, they're telling you that this is about getting aid in there. We can't let the trucks get in there, right? We can't just, we're funding the Israelis. We can't tell them, hey, let these trucks go in here. Something stinks over here, and it seems like this was planned out beforehand. Fogbow is headed by Carl Sam Mundy, a commander of the U.S. Marine Forces Central Command, retired, and former CIA Mick Mulroy, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense in the Middle East under Donald Trump. In 2022, Carl Sam Mundy took part of the Jewish Institute for National Security of America Generals and Admirals program, which educates recently retired U.S. generals and admirals representatives of the country's most credible institution and the military. They got to learn about Israel's unique security challenges and the importance of strong U.S.-Israeli relationship for America's national security. And then we have that little click over there, which you don't have to click, but we'll go down because there's a video. We'll just read. The cornerstone of JINSA, the GNA program, is a trip to Israel during which participants meet up with top Israeli military, intelligence, and government leaders, including the Israeli Prime Minister, Israeli Minister of Defense, Israeli Defense Forces of the IDF, the Chief of Staff, and the Director of the Mossad. I mean, this thing just stinks in all heaven right here, ladies and gentlemen. It's a collaboration of sorts. The who's who getting together of Israel and the United States to come together. What could they be happily talk about? Perhaps that's what the big guy calls the no boots on the ground policy for cosmetic purposes. According to the Wall Street Journal report, the Qatari government has offered Fogbau $60 million to get the job done. Fogbau is still looking for funding and has briefed a range of European and Middle East governments on the plans reported by the BBC. In the longer term, Fogbau plans to set up a donor-run foundation to help funnel aid to Gaza. Fogbau website is registered in Switzerland and sprung to life on the 24th of February, 2024. Fogbau.ch. Very little is known about the company, but it's certainly giving vibes of a U.S. intel outfit. You think? Lieutenant General Sam Mundy retired after 38 years in the Marine Corps and also serves as the president of the company called Once a Marine LLC. Sam Mundy wrote for Foreign Policy, and in September 5th, 2022 article, he explained why the Gulf states and Israel should form a rapid response force. A multinational rapid response force will contribute to the regional security and stability by strengthening and participating partners through capability development, improved interoperability, I can't even say that word, and coherent agreement on common security objectives. Interoperability. Sorry about that. My bad. What would such a force look like? It would be owned by the regional partners, advised and supported by the United States, and endowed with a mission of mutual security and humanitarian interest. It is an interesting choice and an interesting cast of characters that are about to get involved in this floating pier so-called humanitarian project off the coast of Gaza. Can you scroll down a little bit? I can identify many skills available for the mission, but humanitarian relief is truly not on the top of the page here. Something else is going on, and my guess is that it has something to do with Iran. Is it something to do with Iran? Is it something to do with dispersing all the Israeli citizens? Excuse me, that was bad. All the Palestinian citizens of Israel. Is it something to do with that? What is going on over here? This can't just be about getting aid into Gaza. Now, let's take a look at the JINSA project, the one we were talking about, where all the who's who of the United States military, even though a lot of them are retired, and the Israeli forces, the head of the Mossad, the prime minister, the head of the IDF, all these guys are getting together to collaborate. They're in cahoots about what? Take a look at this video over here from JINSA, and it makes you just go, whoa, wait a second. There's something fishy going on.
One of the unique programs at JINSA is what we call a Generals and Admirals program.
It gives us the opportunity to bring some of our retired senior military people here who are able to explain to their counterparts the importance of Israel to our national security defense.
It helps to be able to experience it firsthand and then share those stories.
The access was just phenomenal.
We talked to the Prime Minister of Israel. It just really showed me how much Israel and the United States are very similar.
JINSA also takes retired U.S. generals and admirals to other countries, such as Jordan, Egypt, Greece, where we meet leaders in these countries to expand their and our knowledge of the region. The purpose is to further their education about their region and to engage them subsequently in important policy work. JINSA also has a Homeland Security program where we take senior U.S. law enforcement officers from the FBI and chiefs of police from large U.S. cities from across the country. We bring to Israel where they learn Israeli counterterrorism methods.
Every year we've taken senior American law enforcement officials to Israel to help them get an understanding of how
You
the
pause for
Israelis
1
were
second.
very.
So, my good friend Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown, right? He's going on the Tim Cash show, Tim Pool show. He does that show quite a bit too, as well. But I've seen a lot of Tim Cass lately, and the way he's just kind of dismissing the relationship between the United States and Israel is crazy. And he's not the only one who's doing it. Like, oh my God, there's all these other wars going on and whatnot and stuff. So many of our United States congressional members within the House and in the Senate have dual citizenship, right? They're Israeli citizens as well as American citizens. And you can see what's going on with this Jinza program right now. It's who's zooming who's running who. It's like they're coming there, American troops, American retired, but they have, friends in all different departments, not just to grab a hold of these NGOs and these money, opportunities, but to make sure that the interests of Israel in the United States are one. Who's writing the policy? Who's calling the shots? APAC, right? The American Israeli, what is it? A project or program action committee? I forgot what it's called. American Israeli Political Action Committee. Thank you so much. They're calling the shots. They're running this game over here. Let's watch the rest of this and show you how much influence Israel has on the United States.
Very, very experienced in counterterrorism do that and learn those lessons and bring them home.
A new educational initiative that we have at JINSA is our U.S. military leadership program. We're being rising and senior U.S. military officers to Israel, all of whom are on the trajectory of becoming admirals and generals. The organization for a long time has focused about educating Americans about the Middle East, but it also dawned on us that it's important to educate the Middle East about America. We started bringing IDF, Israeli military rising officers to the United States.
This is a great program to bring young IDF officers to try to understand America beyond the military.
Exposing them to American politics and politicians. It'll help them as they rise in the ranks, and it helps Americans too.
JINSA is a unique organization in Washington in that we offer both education programs and policy efforts. Our Gemunder Center for Defense and Strategy houses scholars and policy projects on Iran, the Eastern Mediterranean, Hezbollah, and other pressing U.S. national security issues in the Middle East.
JINSA brings together policy experts like myself to help formulate recommendations for U.S. policy.
Your scholars develop forward-looking policy recommendations to defend our nation and support allies like Israel, our key partner in the Middle East.
Mike is kind of a go-to guy on a lot of the things that deal with enhancing the relationship between the United States and Israel.
Without us having the intellectual ammunition, without us having those generals and those admirals supplied by JINSA, we wouldn't have that full force of support behind these positions.
Should Congress approve this deal or not? The JCPOA will make the United States and its allies less secure and military confrontation with Iran and its proxies more likely.
The job of JINSA is to get the truth out. JINSA has a reputation of telling it like it is.
With your support, JINSA can continue its vital missions, such as building relationships with U.S. military and law enforcement officials, educating senior officials, and working to ensure a robust U.S.-Israel security relationship.
Israel is everything we want the entire Middle East to look like going forward. It is democratic and prosperous. It desires peace, and it is a home to a free press and a thriving free market economy.
During our dangerous times, we must ensure that the United States remains not only the greatest country in the world, but also the strongest.
All right.
Very important part.
I can't. All right, play it out. It's got 17 seconds. Go ahead. If they give you
JINSA and our future will remain helping our men and women in uniform in need, engaging retired generals and admirals in national security issues so the country could benefit everything from what they've learned.
Wow. Look at that. United States.
One of the unique.
This is giving me ear herpes. Oh, guys, thank you so much for you who are watching on Twitter today. That's crazy that it's so many of you watching over there, guys. If you get a chance, make sure you go and get into our Patreon. We'll announce it too at the end of the segment, but let's go take a look at Freddie Ponton's next tweet that he wrote a couple days ago, because he started doing a little bit digging, and it turns out the Blue Beach Plan in Gaza, right? Let's bring this on up. Years before the Gaza war, Israel Katz, now the Israeli foreign minister, had drawn up plans for a maritime route via Cyprus involving involving a floating island, a pier, indicating that Biden is not the origin of the plan. This is starting to look more like an Israeli initiative, right? At one point, you thought it was a U.S. initiative. Now it's an Israeli initiative. One of the complicating factors with the maritime route was the absence of a port in Gaza being enough to handle cargo ships. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, together with the Navy commander, the head of COGAT, C-O-G-A-T, the military secretary, and the commander of the Navy's Ashad Arena, were actually briefed last Sunday on the work needed to establish a naval pier and routes that will enable the distribution of aid to civilians. Here again, are in charge. Her again, Israelis are in charge. Israelis are in charge. According to the Jerusalem Post, the source, Netanyahu, insinuated that Biden was simply implementing a plan cooked up by Netanyahu. They're all arguing cheese slice on who's going to take credit, not actually initiating anything new. This has already been discussed back in October 2022, October 22nd, 2 weeks following the war's outbreak. 2 weeks following the war's outbreak. Take a look at this video here. It gives you a little idea about how they want to do this.
Artificial Island Initiative is aimed at providing an answer to a reality that is bad for the Palestinians and not good for Israel. Today, Israel continues to be perceived as being responsible for the Gaza Strip and is, to a large extent, the only lifeline to it, even though it withdrew from the Strip over a decade ago. Construction of an artificial island with a port and civilian infrastructure installations off the coast of Gaza will provide the Palestinians a humanitarian, economic, and transportation gateway to the world, without endangering Israel's security. The artificial island, which will be internationally financed, built, and owned, will be constructed about 3 miles off the coast of Gaza. Cargo and passenger ports, port operation and management facilities, water desalination, electricity and gas installations, as well as logistics centers will be built on the island. In order to ensure that security threats are addressed, Israel will remain in control of security in the sea around the island and of security inspection in the port.
It sounds so dramatic. Musical track. Yeah, they're going to control all the
And international police and force will be responsible for security and public order on the island and for a checkpoint on the bridge which will connect the island to the coast. The ability to secure the island will be significantly greater than if a port were to be built on the Gaza coast itself, and should the need arise, the island could be disconnected from the Strip.
I'm sorry to laugh, guys, but if you can't see this craziness, what they're trying to do, oh my Lanta, right? This ain't about getting aid in there. They also want a canal, right? The Ben Gurion Canal, they want to call it, I believe. Yeah, I do have 2 live streams going. I got one on the Convo Couch YouTube. We got one on the Pasta to Go YouTube. We got a lot of people joining us on Twitter today. What a surprise. Man, am I going to be able to change my Twitter game over here? I better step it up. Fiorello always tells me, get your Twitter game going. We are talking about the canal. We are talking about the oil facilities. But more importantly, we're talking about a pier, a floating dock, a pier that Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, talked about during his State of the Union, right? This is nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Freddie Ponton with some great work. But before we close out this section, I want to play something over here since we're talking about everything that's going on. And that's for you guys to decide right now, right? So the Blue Beach Plan, or whatever you want to close, this floating pier, this floating island they've been talking about, United States coming in, bringing their military, their hardware, controlling this pier. It's all about humanitarian aid. Yeah, Bullstein. There's something going on. All the people involved, all the NGOs, all the intelligence communities, the Israeli lobbyists, everything. It just stinks to high heaven. It makes me wonder why now And it should get you mad, ladies and gentlemen out there. Why haven't they been letting aid come in there? This whole stunt, this theatrics with the plane dropping aid. Oh, it's not being successful. Then they were firing at people. The IDF, they said there were claims, right, that the IDF was firing at people going after this aid. So now it's like we got to build a pier to get it in there. No, it wasn't about aid. It's about a plan, ladies and gentlemen. They had something in mind beforehand. Aha! Right? Waiter, where's the spoon? Yep. Coming to America for all you old people out there who watched it. This is crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go over and help us out, we have a Give, Send, Go. We have a Patreon. But before we do that, I'm going to play this last video and I'm going to read it. Jamie, make sure you keep it nice and low. Bring it up to the screen. Keep it low because it's in German. I'm going to read it as best we can. Finally, somebody is speaking out in the German parliament right now, talking about this is madness, what's going on with the Ukraine situation. This is madness, what's going on in Israel. Finally, we have somebody speaking up. So I wanted to play this right here. Hooray for this young lady. This is the German parliament. Take a listen, and then we'll close out this section and finish up our last one. Here we go. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, apparently the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union, wants to show, who is fed up, pathetic traffic light coalition, can't see, that is actually still possible for our country to face a worse fate than having Olaf Scholz as chancellor. And that would be having Friedrich Merz, the leader of the CDU, as chancellor. The Scholz government has already crossed one red line after the other. In the meantime, we've reached a point where German Air Force officers calmly debate how to destroy Russian targets with German cruise missiles. The red line's been crossed. The scandal does not consist in the fact that they let themselves. The scandal is that we've reached a point where it's become normal to have such debates. Our military experts from the Greens have been telling us, our grandiose military experts, for 2 years now, what a game changer we have to deliver next, so that Ukraine can win this war. The FDP is now helping the CDU and the opposition to formulate a motion against the chancellor to force the delivery of more weapons. And the CDU, people like Mr. Keitzweiter, dream about using German missiles to destroy ministries in Moscow. And when the Pope speaks out against this madness, saying that Kiev should negotiate rather than to drive the country to suicide, even he is called a Putin troll. Pause. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, before we finish this up, the Greens in the German parliament, which are supposed to be the leftists, the peace movement, are very much like the Democrats we have here in the United States. They keep continuing to fantasize this David and Goliath situation in Ukraine as if they provide money and weapons to Zelensky and his regime, they'll beat back the big bad bear and the Russians themselves. Ludicrous, ladies and gentlemen. Nuts. Just crazy. And no matter how many troops they lose, over 500,000 now soldiers dead on the Ukrainian side. The average age for the frontline soldier is 43 years old. They've wiped out a whole young generation. People are being kidnapped and taken to the front lines. Just recently, they were trying to send drones into Russian territories, not just the Donbass, into Russian territories, and they got pushed back. But this madness, and you can see the same thing that's happening in our United States Congress, where even people like Barbara Lee, who stood alone voting against the AUMF, the authorization use of military force, giving the president complete control if he wants to strike back at any time. He doesn't have to go through Congress. He can just send troops, weapons, attacks. The AUMF does that. And even Barbara Lee, who's the only standalone Democratic congressional member to vote against that bill right there, is all for war. against Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation, despite him winning in a landslide election. And yes, those elections are a lot more solid than ours. There's a chain of custody in Russia, ladies and gentlemen. They actually do public counting where they dump the ballots out in front of everybody, and you can see them count. Why don't we have that? They still want to fight and push back no matter what. Lindsey Graham just went over there and told them to mobilize more young people regardless of U.S. funding. They don't care, ladies and gentlemen. This is madness. And now you have somebody from the German parliament standing up and saying, enough is enough. You guys are crazy. Even the Greens in Germany are pushing for this war. Let's finish this up real quick. Whoever is following this debate can only ask themselves one question. Have you really all lost your minds? The whole world outside the German political bubble knows.
Die ganze Welt außerhalb der deutschen Politblase weiß,
that Ukraine cannot win this war, could never win this war. For a long time, there has been no winning in Ukraine. There has only been a bloody, dying day in and day out. And Taurus missiles won't change anything at all. Because now they want to send Taurus missiles over there. The only thing that would change would be that in Russia's eyes, Germany would definitely become a wearing party. And so, I am coming with you to negotiate. We are playing with fire as the security in the worst case. The lives of millions of people in Germany now. And that's why I asked you to come to your senses before it's too late. Before it's too late. Something like this should be happening in France. I really hope it is, because what's going on in France is the same thing. This woman is amazing. Yeah, she had some stones, man. The propaganda is strong. It is. But now they're talking about sending high-powered weapons. And she even said, we have a message that's been intercepted over there by the Russians when German commanders are talking casually about blowing up Russian facilities, Russian bridges. You got to be kidding me. But yet it still goes on. And at the State of the Union, Joe Biden was there with his cup, whipping it around, asking for more money, trying to keep it going, jostling that last penny out of the piggy bank in this pyramid scheme where the money trickles right back into their own pockets. Look at FTX. All of them, Republicans and Democrats. And for the Republicans who want to act like they're anti-war in Ukraine, they are for all war in Gaza, and they don't care about that. We have the party of war. Democrats, Republicans together are pro-war.